Hello and welcome to Mississippi Insight. I'm Byron Brown. This week on the program.
Whenever somebody tries to come into your house and make changes in your house and don't want to talk to you, I think that's bad.
Jackson Councilman Byron Brown talks with 12 News in a wide-ranging interview on crime fighting, water services, and legislative action impacting the capital city. And
I've only been here 4 years. This is the worst piece of legislation I've seen come before this floor.
a bill blocking electric car makers from brick and mortar dealerships drives a wedge between Republican lawmakers. We'll take a look at the legislation and industry reaction this Sunday on Mississippi Insight. Well, the fate of House Bill 1020 remains unknown this weekend. 1020 is a legislation that calls for controversial new measures to curb crime in the city of Jackson. The Republican-authored bill originally called for a new criminal court system for the Capitol Complex Improvement District, and it would have extended Capitol Police jurisdiction from the CCID into affluent neighborhoods in northeast Jackson. But the bill was fundamentally rewritten in the Senate Judiciary A Committee. Their version ditches a new court and calls for 5 special appointed judges to assist Hinds County Circuit judges with their criminal case backlog, and it would extend Capitol Police jurisdiction across the entire city. Even with those changes, most Jackson lawmakers and city leaders remain strongly opposed to the measure. They say such Republicans as the bill author, Trey Lamar, failed to consult them, and that is designed to nullify black voting power in the city. One of those opponents is Councilman Byron Brown of Ward 6. We sat down with him Wednesday for an interview on the legislation, violent crime, and other issues facing the capital city. Councilman, certainly the final version of HB 1020 is not done yet, but what was your reaction when it first came out of the House?
You know, when it first came out, my reaction was that this is unconstitutional. You know, state law for the state of Mississippi says when it comes to judges that rule on chancery and circuit matters, that they shall be elected. And what the state is responsible for, which they have done, is carve out districts in which they have that representation. And Hinds County has, you know, those sub-districts where we have Chancery Court and Circuit Courts that represent, you know, our judicial branch here in Hinds County.
Senators on the Judiciary A Committee made substantial changes to it. The bill no longer sets up a separate unelected court of the CCID, but rather appoints temporary judges to assist the caseloads in Hinds County. And it expands Capitol Police jurisdiction across the entire state. Is this any more palatable to you?
No, not really. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, the state should be an institution that's about empowering the municipality. Jackson is the capital city. And, you know, at no point should we be at a place where a state is putting forth bills that say to, you know, to me, take over. That says to me, look, you got $800 million coming in, and water side, you got several economic engines, whether it be the airport, school district, Jackson State University, the city, Hinds County, the state, federal government are all right here in the capital city. And so at the end of the day, not only are you looking at the assets that are available, but what's going on is, you know, the ability to begin to what I see a long-term plan of creating a city within a city.
If the Senate passes the bill, it will go directly to the conference negotiations with the House. What would you like to see come out of this bill?
You know, look, what I would like to see are appropriations to help empower Jackson to take care of public safety all around the city. You know, there are things that the state should be well aware of in the capital area district that this does not shine attention on. For example, neighboring agencies like Pearl, Flowwood, when people get picked up, all of their mental illness patients are patients that might be 1092. They get dropped off right there on High Street. This is where a lot of our homeless population, this is where a lot of our population, where people that might suffer from some type of mental illness, this is where they come from. They come from neighboring entities and neighboring agencies, dropping them off right here in the city of Jackson. And so we need to look at ways to solve those problems. We need to look at ways to make sure that if there is the pickup of someone who's a 1092 in Pearl, that there's something that they can do with that person, you know, instead of just dropping them off downtown in the city of Jackson. And so there are other things that we can address that deal with crime when it comes to the broken window theory, when it comes to the homeless population, when it comes to addressing things and programs that can help deal with our mental illness, when it comes to properly funding education and accessibility for our young people. There are a whole lot of things that we can do, and because of the lack of funding there, you know, Jackson has such a big issue with crime because you know, one of the things, Byron, I think is important is people need to know that Jackson is the only urban city. And in order to deal with the problems that go on in urban city, you need urban solutions.
And what are those solutions?
You know, when you look at urban solutions, again, just look at the things that urban cities, our black cities, deal with. They deal with mental illness. They deal with disadvantaged communities that have that don't have access to, you know, accessibility to things that can help with education or programming, that can be prevention or programming that could help interrupt some of the things that go on in the daily cycle. Not only that, in this capital city, you know, we're frequent all the times with gun shows. And I don't have a problem with gun shows coming to the capital city, but what I do have a problem with some of these owners that may tell a young person to come out of the convention center or come out of where they're selling their guns and say, here, you know, open up the trunk, pop the trunk, and they sell that gun illegally. You have all of this that goes on in the capital city that contributes. And the state has not lifted one single hand at one time to help with those other challenges.
What about the relationship between Capitol Police and JPD? What would you like to see there?
Well, one, I think immediately there needs to be an MOU. You know, now let me just say this just to make sure that we're clear on this. Do we need the extra help because we're short? Yes. Can we afford to pay police officers what Capitol Police are paying? No. We just got to the place where we're paying our officers starting at 45. Capitol Police, I believe, is paying somewhere around 50 or somewhere in that margin. And so I would like to see a memorandum of understanding. I would like that memorandum of understanding to first of all deal with the communication. On the Jackson side, if there's a 911 call that comes from downtown, it needs to be handled by Jackson Police Department. And if the state picks it up, they respond as well. All hands on deck. You know, and so there shouldn't be this tit for tat. But the reason why you have it, the reason why you have this division is because you have two entities working in one jurisdiction and there's no communication.
If there's an expansion of Capitol Police and they say they have jurisdiction of the entire city, how would that work?
You know, I don't know how that would work. I know that there's one city in the whole United States where that city does not have jurisdiction over the capital city, and that's Kansas City. Found that out about 2 days ago just doing research. You know, one, I don't know how that would work. You know, when we talk about a city, we collect taxes, you know, on the citizens here to help provide that public safety, you know, and maybe there's some things that we might need to talk about, but at the end of the day, none of this should be happening without the city and those on the state leadership side that are proposing this bill having a conversation.
What do you say to some Jackson residents who say, hey, we don't care what you do, we just want the crime to go away, we're tired and we're scared of all the crime? You
know, I agree. I am fearful. You know, is Jackson the safest city? No, it's not. Can it be safer? Yes, it can. But at the end of the day, this is what I want them to know, that your state leaders and your municipal leaders should be working together. I'm not going to go up to Senatobia or to go to Tunica or to go to Lee County and try to do something to help without even talking with the leaders there. Jackson deserves the respect. The leaders deserve the respect for those who are proposers of this bill to at least come and talk to the leaders of Jackson, or come ride with, I make the offer right now, come ride with me. Let me show you some of the areas of Jackson. Let me show you some of the good things and some of the positive things. Let me show you some of the good successes, like at Forest Hill High School, like at Obama Magnum High School, elementary school. Let's talk about some of the good things, and let's find ways that we can put our resources together. And the state being the state, which there are citizens of the state of Mississippi that stay in the city of Jackson, let's work together. Let's find out how those resources can best fit the vision that we have for Jackson. And although at times it may seem divided, And although at times it may seem like that we can't get to a common place, at the end of the day, there's nothing that we can't work out if we come to the table and talk together. And so what I hope and what I pray is, and what I hope people understand is, this is a bad deal. Because whenever somebody tries to come into your house and make changes in your house and don't want to talk to you, I think that's bad.
By the way, we invited HB 1020 author, Representative Trey Lamar, to talk with us this week. Once again, he did not respond. We'll have more with Jackson's Aaron Banks when Mississippi Insight continues. Can the Jackson Police Department and the Hinds County Sheriff's Department get crime under control without state or federal help?
I believe that is possible. But I believe that there are certain steps that will need to happen. First of all, I think we need to address, and I just have to honestly speak, we need to address the leadership within the Jackson Police Department. And we need to make sure that within the Jackson Police Department that leadership has a very pro-police, military, paramilitary-like standard, where officers that come in from the recruit can feel and know that there are ways of advancement. We shouldn't be losing officers to the level that we're losing them, and everybody's not going to the Capitol Police. But we've had great detectives that went to Lanier High School, that went to Provine High School, that have worked their way up from the bottom all the way up to sergeant, all the way up to lead detectives, that we're losing. And so I think there's several things that we have to address in-house. And I think that if, as leaders in the city and in the county, we can get together and be honest about the issues we face, then a lot of this we can handle Byron on our own.
So is there an issue with Chief Davis? Is that what you're concerned?
Yeah, I believe that there's an issue with the leadership. I believe that that the leadership should provide an atmosphere conducive for growth, for better morale. I think that when I've heard the chief come before us, that the chief has to do more than just say that the problem is get a jail. And I think that it's time for us to begin to look and move in a new direction when it comes to leadership in the police department.
So you want a new police chief?
I did not vote to confirm Chief Davis the last time.
And how's the mayor reacted to that, to where you're standing on that?
I don't know how the mayor's reacting. I think that there's been several occasions where that have been made clear. His last confirmation, it was a 3-4 vote. And I think that if we give new leadership an opportunity, I think that if that atmosphere is provided, look, there's no known secret to me for somebody who used to be in law enforcement, that people aren't leaving because of the pay. People aren't leaving because there's not a jail. People are leaving because they just want to be treated right. And I think that there are moments when we have to look at leadership. One of my most favorite movies, Byron, is Glory. And in that movie, Morgan Freeman said to the lieutenant colonel, he says, the character of the organization represents the leader at the top.
Would you want a leader that comes from outside or someone from the inside?
I think that there are some qualified people on the inside. I think some of the qualified people that were on the inside are gone. And hopefully we can do some things to get them back, but I think that we need to do an all-inclusive search.
You have a leadership role with the National League of Cities. You're in touch with leaders from other cities and around the country. Are your colleagues finding smart solutions to crime fighting in those their own jurisdictions?
Several things we're doing. One, and what we see happening is that just like on the infrastructure side, when we saw cities having direct access to federal funding that can allow them to provide fixes, we feel like cities like Jackson can benefit when there is direct appropriation or direct funding that comes directly to the city to help us with our public safety efforts. Here in Jackson, we're uniquely different. While other cities might not have a shortage in public safety, or while other cities might have a SWAT team budget of $1 million, here in Jackson we don't have that, and we have an extreme shortage. And so there are things that we have to do. First of all, we've identified cities, and as a leader of National League Cities, we've identified cities that need more visibility. And so in order to have more visibility, you need more police. That visibility becomes a deterrence, because the number one reason why there's a crime, because there's an opportunity that presents itself.
Move on to the water situation. How do you feel that the handling of the water crisis, Ted Hennepin, and where the city stands on getting things done with the water and also the water billing?
Look, I am very confident in what's going on with this momentarily receivership that we can call it, just to be honest. I do have confidence in Ted. I do think that there are some kinks that need to be worked out, and I think that there are some things that we can always improve. I think that there are issues that the citizens have. Like, the citizens feel like, okay, so if Ted is the third-party administrator and the federal judge is the watchdog, then who's the watchdog over the watchdog? You know, and I know that question needs to be answered. This is what I'm getting all the time. But I feel good because we have the appropriation and we're starting to see the funding coming in necessary without all the different red tape by the state. It's coming in necessary, so that the necessary fund is coming in so that we can begin to address those issues with the water. And so at this point, I'm not worried about water. I'm worried about sanitary sewer flows. I'm worried about our public safety. I'm worried about the lack of attention our parks get. I'm worried about our right-of-ways being able to be cut. I'm worried about, you know, if we're able to have a vac truck to go and vac out this manhole that's been clogged up in South Jackson that's causing sanitary sewer overflow into these houses, and they got 4 to 5 inches of sludge or sewer in the house. And so, you know, while we have negotiated and we see that we're in a good place with water, I have confidence that's based on our conversations that we're going to find an affordable way to make sure that we bill our customers and to make sure that billing is accurate. And I'm confident that those things are going to work out, and it's going to take time. I think he's been here on the ground for 4 months, but those things are, you know, I have a ability to be confident about, because Ted, unlike state leaders, comes to town halls in South Jackson. Ted comes and talks before the city council. Ted answers emails to local people in Jackson. The state leaders, again, that proposed this bill and that have proposed this takeover, they absolutely have done none of that, and probably could care less about what anybody in Jackson thinks. And if they do, show me at least 10 emails from people that are right here in Jackson that are of both races.
And so this 9-member board that they want to put together, what do you think's going to happen with that?
I think right now none of that matters. I think right now we are under the jurisdiction of a federal judge. There is a lawsuit, the EPA and the Department of Justice, well, the EPA, with all of the attorneys and the powers that exist at the Department of Justice, is suing or has a lawsuit filed against the city of Jackson and the state of Mississippi. And let me just say this for caveat. When the discussions first started, the city of Jackson stepped up and was ready to deal with whatever agreement and whatever confidentiality agreement was necessary to begin to start negotiating to go move forward with fixing our water. There was one entity that did not. That was the state of Mississippi. And I still don't know where they are in that process. But at the end of the day, you know, I think it doesn't even matter, because we're under the jurisdiction of that federal judge. We don't know how long this is going to be. It could be 1 year, it could be another 5 years, it could be 10 years. And I do know that the state cannot supersede the federal government's authority.
So whatever they pass, you're not worried about it?
I'm not worried about that on that end. It's frivolous in a way.
A bill that would change the future of electric vehicles in Mississippi is already drawing negative reaction from industry observers. The news and commentary site Electrek puts in bluntly, quote, Mississippi's 50th place in everything passes a bill to stop EV dealers. House Bill 401 is now headed to the governor's desk. 12 News' Richard Lake has more details on the legislation and why some lawmakers believe it could hurt Mississippi's economy.
House Bill 401 passed the Senate after a nearly 2-hour debate, with the majority of opponents being Republican senators.
I've only been here 4 years. This is the worst piece of legislation I've seen come before this floor, and I would just ask you to consider voting against it.
If made law, House Bill 401 would mandate electric vehicles be sold through franchise dealerships instead of the more commonly used manufacturer-owned dealers. Senator Jeremy England voiced his dismay many times, saying that it not only hurts consumers, but also the state.
We're telling the electric vehicles who use a different sales model, that their sales model is not acceptable in Mississippi. If you have to go through a middleman and go through a dealership, you can already count on a 5% increase in cost tacked on just for the middleman on that. I feel like we're sending the wrong message. I think we're telling them, look, we're going to do things the old way here in Mississippi. Good luck in the other states. And they're going to start selling their vehicles there, and we're going to miss out on it.
Proponents of the bill hold that this legislation ensures that all manufacturers have an even playing field, while opponents say it is anti-capitalism.
I've said repeatedly it's one set of rules for everyone, and that's what it does.
There's just so many things that we're doing that is not moving forward, and I think we took a step backwards with this legislation today.
Senator England believes that this legislation also makes the state less attractive for future investments.
In Nevada, they're an open model state. They allow direct sales from electric vehicle manufacturers. They just saw a $3.4 billion investment by a battery company in the state of Nevada.
The lone Mississippi Tesla store in Brandon will be allowed to remain open if this bill is made law. Reporting in Jackson, Richard Lake, 12 News.
Big thanks to Jackson Councilman Aaron Banks for talking with us this week. And we'll be back next weekend with more of the political and current affairs coverage that you demand. I'm Byron Brown. From all of us here at 12 News, make it a great weekend.